How's it going, guys, and welcome back to BL3's Forgotten. This is where I take a look at underused and not often talked about pieces of gear to determine whether or not they deserve to be remembered in the modern meta of the game or should be left behind and forgotten. And today we are taking a look at the Destructo Spinner. If you'd like to farm the Destructo Spinner for yourself, you're going to want to fast travel over to Atlas HQ on Promethea, with this fast travel station being where we will be resetting from. Exit out of that room towards the right before making a left, and running all the way over to the back wall where you can mantle up and make your way to the corner where the power troopers can jump down from. Just a note here, to make the farm a little easier, you can shoot up towards the ledge that they jump down on, and this can make them aggro a little bit sooner and come down quicker. The Destructo Spinner specifically only drops from the blue and pink power trooper, so if you're only going for this done, you could just ignore the rest of them. The Destructo Spinner is a legendary Maliwan SMG. It will roll with any 2 of the 5 elements, and with 1 or 2 projectiles per shot for 1 and 2 ammo cost per shot respectively. The spinner requires a brief charge up before firing, which it will then fire out corkscrewing projectiles, with the element of these projectiles randomly alternating between your 2 elements. The Destructo Spinner has received a buff, being a 100% weapon damage increase. So to start off here, let's talk about ×1 versus ×2. I do honestly think both were pretty good. ×2 obviously was consuming more ammo per shot. However, this being a somewhat slower fire rate SMG, it really didn't feel like that big of a deal, and the damage increase was definitely noticeable. But whichever one you would rather use kind of just comes down to personal preference. If you don't mind reloading a little bit more for some more damage output, definitely go for the ×2. If you want a more streamlined, easy play style that doesn't require as much reloading, then definitely go for the ×1. Of course, different builds may benefit from different things, with the ×2 definitely being better if you have the ammo sustain for it, but again, both are very solid options. Now, the Destructo Spinner overall as a gun is actually pretty damn strong. This thing held up even into True Guardian Takedown, which is not able to be said about a lot of other weapons. But it wasn't really anything too amazing there, though definitely still good enough to be considered strong. But the base damage, while good, and especially so considering this is an elemental and splash damage weapon, the damage isn't really where the value of the Destructo Spinner comes from. Having both elements able to be fired without having to swap your firing mode is amazing for builds that otherwise don't have much access to bonus elements. It gives you that Maliwan elemental coverage without having to interrupt your gameplay and recharge your gun again just because you decide to swap element. It can be a little annoying because this isn't able to be controlled and it just swaps randomly, but really, for the most part, I never really felt this to be a big deal. But again, while this is where the biggest value comes from the Destructo Spinner, that isn't to say the damage is bad. While it isn't anywhere near the likes of the Plasma Coil or Crit, those are some unfair damage standards and we stan attainable standards here. You go, Short Kings. The Spinner absolutely holds up against some of the more meta options, with True Guardian Takedown being the only place that it really starts to fall short. But this thing is an absolute beast on True Maliwan Takedown and below, and that's kind of where it should be strong. Let's talk about the elephant in the room with this one, and by elephant in the room, I mean the massive fucking selection of Maliwan SMGs. This is not only just an incredibly congested weapon class, but there's also a lot of incredibly strong options here, and it makes it incredibly difficult to justify any sort of use of the Destructo Spinner once you get access to the Kib's Worth or the DNA that fill the exact same role of elemental splash damage SMGs with multiple elements and our base game. The DNA especially so because it fires all the elements, so instead of only giving you coverage for 2, it's able to give you coverage for literally everything. But this is only base game. You start looking at DLC and it becomes even less valuable. The SF Force, the Ion Laser, the Plasma Coil, again, there is a lot of splash damage elemental SMGs. And that's why the Destructo Spinner currently is, well, forgotten. But that isn't to say that it's not worth remembering, because I actually kind of like the progression that the Destructo Spinner provides. Unlike a lot of the guns that I listed, the Destructo Spinner is available pretty damn early into a playthrough and at any point throughout the endgame. The Destructo Spinner can kind of act as a stepping stone. It's a very strong weapon in its own right, and as I mentioned, it's more than good enough to easily take on Maliwan Takedown. This means you can go down that path of Destructo Spinner into Kib's Worth, which is almost a direct upgrade, and then you could keep going from Kib's into DNA, which again is almost just a direct upgrade. And I think that's kind of neat. I like the idea of guns leading you to other guns that fill their same role, but a little bit different differently and maybe a little bit better. Overall though, the Destructo Spinner is an incredibly solid weapon. It's just overshadowed by an incredibly congested weapon class. There's a lot of things that do the exact same thing as the Destructo Spinner, but just better. But not really any of them are available as early as the Destructo Spinner is, and because of that, the Destructo Spinner can definitely hold a place as an early endgame gun. Picking one up early on can definitely help you push through mayhem levels or farm for better options. And in that way, while this is a gun that kind of only exists to eventually be forgotten, it can definitely still be a pretty valuable tool. But that's not about do it for this one. I hope you guys enjoyed. If you did, definitely consider leaving a like, comment, subscribe, all of that. Down in the description will be a link to my Twitch channel where you can follow, be notified of when I go live, and just below that is a link to my Discord server where you can come and join and hang out. But with that all being said, I hope to see you guys in the next one.